All right, guys, in today's video, we are going to go through what to expect during a career transition as an introvert. And for those of you who are new here, you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, my name is Katie. I am a coach here at CareerSprout, and actually I am also very much an introvert. I am an INTJ for those of you who know the Myers-Briggs. So I definitely can empathize with you guys, and especially for folks who are in industries that being an introvert is often very beneficial, whether it's as an engineer, analytics, data scientist, product manager. There's a lot of career paths out there that are perfectly designed for introverts and give you the lifestyle that you want. But that transition process, the interview process, talking to recruiters, hiring managers, negotiating, that's the tricky part. So today we are going to walk through the exact process that has helped over 500 professionals, not all of them introverts, but many of them are, how they have walked through this process to increase their salaries by about $37,000 on average. And it typically only takes them about 63 days from start to finish to accept their job offer. So with that, let's dive in. All right, guys, let's dive in here. What to expect when you are going through a career or a job transition as an introvert. So let's start with the problems. A lot of folks, problem number one, the root of their problems comes from picking the wrong fits. Most professionals, especially introverted folks, engineers, product managers, people in analytics, things of that nature that tend to suit introverts a little bit better. Most of them don't know how to identify the job and the company that are perfect for them. That's a big thing. They keep picking jobs that are either have no growth opportunities, no leadership opportunities, or just the wrong fit in general. Problem number two is they have a really hard time translating their experience. It's especially engineers in particular. This one, I would say this whole video specifically, engineers are kind of like at the top of these things where a lot of times your job requires you to essentially speak a foreign language. You don't speak the same language as recruiters or oftentimes even hiring managers. And so you have no idea how to put together a resume or a LinkedIn profile that actually explains your background and, more importantly, your growth potential from that. Same thing, we do a lot of work with military veterans, very similar here, where it's when you're trying to translate combat to civilian, you need to put it through a translator first. So problem number three is having a hard time connecting with the actual decision makers. So a lot of introverts think that their work should speak for itself. And oftentimes once you're in the job, it does speak for itself. But unfortunately, a lot of the directors, a lot of the leaders, they're looking for somebody who can also who can come in with strong communication skills as well. Now, that does not mean you've got to schmooze people, but you do need to be able to communicate with them well. So brings us to the next one, communicating specifically with recruiters and hiring managers. Especially during the interview process, the technical whiteboards, most introverts prefer working alone. They prefer not having to explain every single step of exactly what they're going through. So they end up struggling through those three parts of the interview process. And then, of course, the last one, not being able to negotiate. Now, I'm saying can't in all of these. The reality is it's choosing not to, or feeling like it's beneath you. And this is something that I admittedly struggled with for a very long time, where introverts, engineers in particular, generally are not known for our sales skills. For most engineers in particular, or just across the board, negotiation pretty much just feels like an insulting game. It's an insulting game that's just not even worth playing. So when you go through that process, you end up settling because you don't want to negotiate and you don't want to go through this whole process again. It's a waste of your time. It's a complete drain on your energy. And if you miss any one of these steps, you are going to leave massive amounts of money on the table. So we've got a ton of free workshops, free material that you can go through to learn how to do each of these things, how to fix each of these problems in depth. I'll put links in the description, or you can subscribe to the channel if you just want to get this. We post fairly regularly now. We're starting to post fairly regularly, I should say. So you can get it all for free. I'm going to go through a very quick high-level overview of it right now as well. So you can stay on, watch this if you would like, again, just a high-level overview. We've got plenty of other resources. You can reach out to us if you want added in-depth resources for any of these. So step one is clearly defining your career nirvana. Being able to identify and articulate the right job and company and the career path you want to go on. Solution number two, all about building a compelling narrative in your resume and LinkedIn profile. This is a real beautiful thing for introverts, because when you do this properly, you will have recruiters and hiring managers reaching out to you directly and wanting you. You don't need to necessarily reach out to them. They will be reaching out to you with your dream jobs, your dream companies that you actually admire and have growth opportunities. Step three is, and this is the one where most introverts, their chest tightens up, pit in their stomach feeling comes up as soon as they see that word network. It's very important that you create a leverageable network of hiring managers and executives. The good news here is that you don't need to go to networking events and schmooze people. It's a very targeted, very scientific, simple step-by-step process to go through and reach out to the right people and just build a tight-knit, close community of those people that can directly impact your career. Step four, I love that word, no schmoozing during the interviews. This is something that a lot of folks don't know and actually really struggle with for a while, is your interview should not be talking about you. Good news for introverts, it's not about you. Your interview is about asking the right questions and having your interviewer should have a consultative experience where you are diagnosing the problems and then prescribing a solution to them. And then, of course, step five, negotiating a logical competitive offer. That's something that's really important. And it's a very scientific method to go through and know, hey, here's what my skills, here's what this is worth on the open market, here's what you offered, here's some win-win solutions on how we can get closer to what actually logically makes sense. And so I don't even think we need to go through this here. That is the high-level overview. Let's dive in. We still have a couple minutes. I try to keep these short for you guys. But this is the stuff that you do want to avoid. And a lot of introverts struggle through this because they're following this outdated old model. That means applying to as many jobs as possible, job hopping from one company to another every couple of years for slightly higher salaries, getting burnt out, spending more time searching and applying for jobs than actually connecting with individuals and companies that you want to work with, people that you admire, companies you admire. You end up focusing more on what you don't want versus what you actually want. You can really clearly describe all the things you hate, not so much what you actually love, and rely on online applications and recruiters and waiting on them to introduce you to the hiring managers and decision makers. You can bypass that very quickly. When you finally land an interview, you get nervous, you go in underprepared, you bomb the interview, one part of it, and then you stress out because you haven't heard back from the company that you interviewed at 3 weeks ago. You ask a few friends if they know somebody who's hiring, and then you end up accepting the first job you get because it ends up being your only offer. So that is the outdated model. The 5 steps that we talked about get you out of this old model. They get you into the new model. This is literally where you have control over who you work with, how you work with them, and the salary that you can command, which means you can actually future-proof your career, where you don't have to worry about awkward rejections or accepting less than your worth, or if a company downsizes. All of that becomes irrelevant when you follow these steps properly. The best part about this, it's proven, it's predictable. We know with 100% certainty whether or not somebody has followed each of these steps properly because it works every single time. That's especially for logical introverts, one of the best things that you can hear. It means you don't have to worry about saying yes the first time you get an offer because you're not sure if somebody else is going to give you a shot. You don't want to slide back down to the beginning and have to claw your way through each of the steps again. all of that becomes irrelevant. And it's really, quite frankly, it's so effective because most employees, most candidates just simply don't know their worth. They don't know what their skills are actually worth on the market to companies. And here's a perfect example. This is something, it went viral earlier this year, where this is somebody, a recruiter posted about how they gave somebody $85,000 for a job that had a budget of 130. Now, this is in a candidate-driven market. We will switch back to an employer-driven market eventually. It's like the housing market, it ebbs and flows, and we're overdue for a correction, quite frankly. So when that happens, nobody has a specific date, but it will happen. So when that happens, this is going to become even more prevalent. But even in a candidate-driven market, especially for analytical introverts, this happens all the time, where you don't want to deal with all the headaches and you don't know what you're worth. So you end up accepting so much less than what you're worth. This is what we want to make sure it never happens. So again, that's why we are putting out so many more free resources for folks. If you guys want added help, you want to schedule a career session with one of our coaches to map out, maybe your situation's a little bit unique and you want a specific solution for you, feel free to reach out. But our goal is to help 1 million people. By 2025, we want to help 1 million people transition into meaningful careers, getting on the right career path where they can leverage their strengths, where they can build a career that aligns with their life aspirations. It's super important to us. So with that, I hope you guys got value from this. If it was valuable, if you guys want specific resources, feel free to comment them below. We will get those out to you. And I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.